At the rear of the bus, there are no colored fluids or puddles indicating a leak. My compartment door is securely mounted, no damages. It opens and closes properly. As we move to the engine, all of the wires and hoses are not cut, cracked, frayed, or leaking. My water coolant reservoir is securely mounted, fluid above the add line. My oil dipstick has fluid above the add line. My exhaust is securely mounted. It's not bent, broken, or cracked. The clamps are tight, and it's securely mounted from the manifold all the way to the stack. The alternator is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked. It is belt driven, and the fastener is securely mounted. It is not cut, cracked, or frayed. The belt for the alternator is securely mounted. It is not cut, cracked, or frayed, and it gives no more than 3/4 inch of play. The water pump is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked, and is not leaking. It is also belt driven. The belt for the water pump is not cut, cracked, or frayed, and gives no more than 3/4 inch of play. The power steering reservoir in the back is securely mounted. It has fluid above the add line. The power steering pump is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, cracked, or leaking. It is gear driven. The air compressor is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, cracked, or leaking, and is also gear driven. We will now move to the rear axle. Most of the parts for the rear axle are hidden behind the side panel. We will start with the mud flaps. The mud flaps are securely mounted. They are not cut or torn. The airbags are securely mounted. They are not cut, torn, or leaking. The airbag mounts are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, and are not missing any parts. The shocks are securely mounted. They are not damaged, and they are not leaking. The brake hose fittings are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, or leaking. The brake hose is securely mounted. It is not cut, cracked, or frayed, or leaking. The brake chamber and clamp are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, or leaking, and the clamp is tight. The slack adjuster and push rod are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, or missing any parts. And I can pull on the slack adjuster, and the push rod will not move more than 1 inch when pulled by hand with the brakes released. The brake drums are securely mounted. They are not bent, dented, cracked, have any holes, and the lining is not worn too thin. They are both free of oil and grease. The torque arm is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked, and is not missing any bushings. The drive shaft and U-joints are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked. The drive shaft is not twisted, and they are free of debris. The bud rims are securely mounted. They are evenly spaced and free of debris. The tires are securely mounted. They are evenly worn. There are no cut, cracks, or frays to the sidewalls, no missing rubber or any bulges. There is no less than 2 30-seconds of an inch of tread depth. The lug nuts are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked, loose, or missing. There are no rust trails or shiny threads that will indicate a loose nut. The bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. The valve stem and cap are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked. And I will check the tire pressure with the tire pressure gauge. The axle seal is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked, and is not leaking. If it was equipped with a sight glass, I will check it for adequate fluid. This concludes our rear axle. We will now move to the fuel tank. It is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked, and is not leaking. The cap is tight, and it is not leaking. There is no fluid above or below the tank, indicating a leak. The doors and windows are securely mounted. They have no damages, and they are clean. The frame and cross members have no damages. They are not loose, and they are not missing. Moving to the front axle. I will check the front axle the same as I check the rear axle. The things that are the same: the mud flaps, airbags, airbag mounts, shocks, brake hose fittings and brake hose, brake chamber and clamp, the brake drum and lining, the tires, rims, lug nuts and bolt holes, and the valve stem. The things that are different: the slack adjuster and push rod. It is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked, and I can pull on the slack adjuster and the push rod will not move more than 1 inch, regardless if the brakes are released or not. The front axle has a hub seal instead of an axle seal. It is securely mounted, not damaged, and is not leaking. The tread depth of the front axle tire is no less than 4 30-seconds of an inch of tread depth. Making our way onto the bus, we will now inspect the entryway. My entryway lights are securely mounted, clean, operational, not missing or broken, and are the proper color. The entryway is free of any trip hazards, not damaged, and there are no obstructions. The wheelchair ramp is securely mounted. It is not damaged, it is properly stowed, and it is not leaking. My are securely mounted. They are not damaged, and they are not missing. I will now inspect the bus for its proper documentation. The bus documentation is located in the black box above the driver's seat. The fire extinguisher is securely mounted, not damaged, and fully charged. I also have a box of spare fuses located inside the bus in a compartment bin. I have 3 red reflective triangles that are properly stowed on the bus. My seats and seat mounts and handrails are securely mounted. They are not damaged, they are not missing, and they are not loose. The entryway for the rear of the bus, I will check the same way as I check the entryway to the front of the bus. The rear mirror is securely mounted. It is not damaged. It is clean and adjusted to me in the driver's seat. I have 3 types of emergency exits: overhead hatches, doors, and windows. An alarm will sound if one of them is open while the bus is running. I will now conduct a safe start. My seatbelt is securely mounted. It is not cut, cracked, or torn, fully adjustable. It locks and unlocks properly. I will verify that my parking brake is engaged, which is in the up position. With the master switch, I will turn 2 clicks to the right into the lights position. The instrument panel should turn on via the telltale panel. I will check for the ABS light to turn on and then off again, verifying that the ABS system is working. I will verify that my bus is in neutral with the transmission panel, and then using the push start button, I will hold it down till the bus fully cranks. I will now conduct an inspection of the instruments of the bus, starting with the mirrors. The mirrors are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked. They are clean and adjusted to me. My flat and convex mirrors can see alongside the bus and 200 feet behind the bus. My interior mirrors are adjusted to me and they are clean and they can see the cab of the bus. My windshield is securely mounted. It is not bent, broken, or cracked, free of obstructions and any illegal stickers. My gauges. My oil gauge is rising to normal. My water gauge is rising to normal. My voltmeter is showing that the alternator is charging. My air pressure gauge is rising to max air pressure, which is between 120 and 140 psi. When the bus reaches max air pressure, the governor will cut off. My heat and defrost work on all 3 levels. Pulling the knobs up for heat and leaving the second knob down for defrost shows that the heat and defrost are working. My windshield wipers are securely mounted. They are not bent, broken, or cracked. The windshield wipers wipe, and pushing the button down verifies that the washer washes. The horn of the bus, located in the steering wheel, is operational. The turn signals for the bus are located on the floor on the left side of the steering column. Bottom left for left, bottom right for right, and the top right for the high beams. You will need to keep your foot down as long as you're in the turn, except for the high beams, which is a push button. The 4-way or hazards is a toggle switch on the left panel. You can check all lights via the telltale panel above your head. To operate the doors, you will need to supply them with air. There is an air door handler on the left-hand side towards the rear. Toggle the switch to normal to provide the doors with air, and then you will be able to move the switch to any direction that is necessary. When leaving the bus unattended for the period of time, remember to release the air in order for you to exit the vehicle. If the air is not released, an alarm will sound and the doors will not open. We will now conduct a series of brake tests. We'll first start with the parking brake. We will verify that the parking brake is engaged, meaning that it is in the up position with our foot on the service brake. We will then put the bus in drive, pushing the D on the transmission switch. After which, we will remove our foot from the service brake. If the parking brake is working, the bus should not move. The bus did not move after I released my foot off the service brake, verifying that the parking brake is working. I will put my foot back on the service brake and put the bus in neutral. I will now conduct the service brake check. I will push down on the parking brake or disengage the parking brake. I will put my bus back in drive via the D on the transmission switch. I will test my service brake by releasing my foot off the brake. I will allow my bus to move up to 5 miles per hour and then come to a complete stop. Once I come to a complete stop, the bus should not move left or right, indicating that the service brake is working. I moved forward just a little bit and came to a complete stop. The bus did not move left or right, verifying that the service brake is working. I will now put my bus back in neutral, and then I will release my foot off the service brake, allowing my bus to find a neutral resting spot. This will be the beginning of the leak test. The bus has to be in a neutral position, parking brake disengaged, and then allowing the bus to rebuild its air to max air pressure, which is between 120 and 140. The governor will cut off when the bus reaches max air pressure. The next series of tests is considered the must-pass section. These steps must be done in order according to the FMCSA and DOT regulations. Please do not go out of order during this process. We will first start with the leak test. After our bus has rebuilt max air pressure, turn the bus completely off, and then turn the bus back on 2 clicks to the right. Allow the needles in the gauges to stabilize before continuing. After they have stabilized, place your foot on the service brake in order to stabilize the air pressure in the bus. Once the air pressure needle stabilizes, get out your timing device. You can use a stopwatch, your wristwatch, your phone, or any other timing device in order to conduct the leak test. You will time this test for 1 minute. During this minute, your bus should not lose more than 3 psi and you should not hear any audible leaks. Please remember to tell the tester when you start your time. During this minute, if you forgot anything else previous, you can go back and say it now. Once your minute has ended, you will take your foot off the service brake and tell the tester you did not lose more than 3 psi and you did not hear any audible leaks. Now you will conduct the low air alarm warning test. You will pump your brakes till your air pressure drops to at or before 55 psi at which the low air alarm light should appear via the telltale panel. Continue to pump your brakes now. Once the low air alarm warning light appears, you can take your foot off of the service brake. Now that your foot is off the service brake, verify that you are above 55 psi. If you are, please continue. Next, you will perform the brake response test. You will continue to pump your brakes until your air pressure reaches at or around 40 psi, in which the parking brake will engage itself or pop out. Conduct that test now by pumping your brakes. Once the parking brake pops up, you can take your foot off the service brake. This verifies that the parking brake response system is working properly. You have now completed the leak, alarm, and brake tests. To continue your pre-trip, turn on the hazard lights, high beams, open the door, and exit the vehicle. At the front of the bus, we want to inspect our mirror brackets. They are securely mounted, not bent, broken, or cracked, not loose or missing. Our windshield wiper arms are securely mounted, not bent, broken, or cracked, loose, or missing. Our lights, clearance, running, hazards, high beams, low beams, turn signals, and reflectors are all securely mounted, clean, operational, not missing or broken, and are the proper color. The power steering box on the driver's side panel is securely mounted, not bent or broken or cracked, not leaking, and not missing any parts. The power steering hose is securely mounted from the power steering box to the engine. It is not cut, cracked, or frayed, and it is not leaking. The steering linkage, which consists of the links, arms, rods, joints, and sockets, are securely mounted, not bent, broken, or cracked, and not missing any nuts, bolts, or cotter pins. Moving alongside the bus, we want to check our lights. The clearance lights, running lights, hazard lights, reflectors, and turn signals are all securely mounted, clean, operational, not missing or broken, and are the proper color. At the rear of my bus, I want to check the lights again. The clearance lights, running lights, reverse lights, brake lights, hazards, turn signals are all securely mounted, clean, operational, not missing or broken, and are the proper color. This concludes the pre-trip inspection. You will then ask the tester, "Will you please check my lights?"